In 2021, in front of the whole world, Simone Biles experienced what in gymnastics they call the twisties. She could no longer navigate the twists that were built into her routines with any sort of confidence and then skill. In tennis, they call it the yips. You can't serve, you can't place the ball. In baseball, there are slumps. These moments happen when what had been true before, our talent, our gifts, our skill, suddenly disappear, and we are in a whole new territory, one in which it feels like it's all falling apart. And the difficulty with that moment is, of course, that we've lost our talent. The other difficulty, however, is what happens to us internally. This conversation is about what to do when negative thoughts and emotions begin to be triggered within us. And this happens to all of us. Dr. Karen Rivich from Penn, who is a resilience expert, talks about common negative thought habits that we get triggered into when something surprising happens or when the thing we've been dreading actually happens, when everything falls apart. So, I'd love for you to do, if we were together in some room, I'd ask you to put your hand up and do a little testifying. But some of these are going to be true for you because they're true for everyone. Some of us jump to conclusions. Some of us catastrophize. Some of us are vulnerable to taking things personally. Some of us maximize the negative information coming our way and minimize the positive. Some of us allow our emotions to cloud our judgment. I'm so far, I'm 5 out of 5. Some of us practice mind reading, and mind reading it goes in two directions. One is when you expect others to be able to read your mind without having to say it out loud, or you make assumptions about other people, about why they did what they did, without actually checking in on why they did what they did. So imagine a teammate comes into the locker room, you say hello, they don't say hello, you take it personally, and you start judging them for who, oh, he's cold, he's mean, she's you know what, right? But you don't ever bother to step back and think, I wonder why they don't say hello. I wonder if there's a logical, sensible reason for that. Perhaps they didn't hear me. Perhaps they are in their own mind about a much larger stressor than whether they're saying hello to teammates or not. Perhaps they're in great pain and they're trying to hide it from everyone, so they don't want to look me in the face. We jump to conclusions, we take things personally, we maximize the bad, minimize the good. We do all of these things under stress. And the problem then is that once those states are triggered, I'm particularly vulnerable to jumping to conclusions and taking things personally. I tend to be sort of a ruminator by nature, and so I'm vulnerable in that direction. Once that happens, a series of negative emotions begin to rise as well, and some beliefs, hidden beliefs, underground beliefs, beliefs that say things like you aren't good enough, or you're not worthy, or they don't want you here, or you'll never be respected here. Resilient folk acknowledge the internal swamp of these kind of negative thought habits, and they choose not to stay stuck there. Hard to do at times, and completely possible. Dr. Rivich has a series of prompts in her book, The Resilience Factor, but essentially those prompts bring us into one strategy, which is called the genius of the and. The genius of the and means that we acknowledge the swamp of our own thinking. We've jumped to conclusions, we've taken things personally, we've catastrophized, etc. And we don't stay stuck there. We build in an and. And on the other side of the and, we write down or we say out loud a couple of thoughts that are slightly positive, not Disney fantasy positive, but slightly positive and true, meaning we actually believe them. So it looks something like this. They receive a lot more attention than I do, and I'm going to show up full-hearted every single day. Or I've lost my confidence in myself. I cannot get this serve in, and I know that I still have a place on this team because they respect the fullness of my talents and everything I bring. I'm a terrible parent. I'm a terrible coach. I'm a terrible manager. And I know how to ask for help and gain greater wisdom. You see, the and doesn't solve the problem. What it does is it builds a cognitive bridge between the swampy thinking in the mind and constructive thinking. And from that place of constructive thinking, we are far more likely to make resilient, wise choices. If I've made the assumption that my teammate isn't saying hi to me today because they don't like me or they don't trust me or they don't respect me, then I'm going to start spiraling into either anger or jealousy or low self-worth. I'm going to feel worse about myself or worse about them. And that is not going to put me in the best place to enter the field with them or the stadium or the court. It is also true that if I pause and build in the and, my feelings may still be hurt. I still may be confused. And I've chosen myself a pathway forward that reminds me that I am larger than this moment. You see, that is what we are looking for essentially in resilience is the capacity over time, not right away, but over time to become larger and larger than the stressors at hand. You probably know someone who's been diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or a life-threatening illness or lifelong illness, like a diagnosis of Parkinson's, for example, something where they're going to navigate over a long time. And you've probably witnessed some of those people actually find a way to live a life that is whole, even while cancer is a part of it, or kidney disease, or even while Parkinson's is slowly taking away some of their competencies. Building in the and builds at first cognitive flexibility. We don't stay stuck in those negative, non-resilient thoughts. It also builds emotional agility, right? The and is like a bridge from the swamp to the pond, from a bad moment to a slightly better next moment. Notice that it doesn't solve the problem. It just puts us in a better place to enact a next better choice, a next better moment. So I'm thinking now of some of the most extraordinary baseball players we've ever watched who've gone into a slump and cannot hit. Great statistics, huge career record, cannot connect, cannot connect. Their capacity to continue to show up at that plate and swing away means that somehow they have found a way to live into the and. Somehow they've built a bridge internally between what has fallen apart and what is yet possible. So the next time you find yourself swirling in your own mind, you want to take a breath and pause. This tool is so impactful that when I first learned it, I actually wrote and in permanent black magic marker on my forearm. So for 6 weeks, I walked around with the word and to remind me that every moment we have a choice. In every single moment, we have a choice. There was this incredible psychiatrist from Austria, Dr. Viktor Frankl. Some of you may have heard of him. He was doing an extraordinary amount of research on how meaning keeps us alive. And then the Nazis invaded, and he and his family were brought to concentration camps. He lost, I think, everyone except one person. He was in 3 different camps. In the final camp, Auschwitz, he realized that he was making hell, even more hell, by what he called the smallness of his thoughts. When he became ruminative in ways that were catastrophizing, jumping to conclusions, taking things personally, it made hell more hell. It made the yips worse, right? It made the losses horrific. Our negative thinking makes everything harder. He paused and built in an and. And the and he chose was the following. Every time I notice myself ruminating, diving deep into catastrophizing, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to bring my mind to a better place. And the place he chose to bring his mind to, he would imagine himself standing in front of a classroom of students, teaching them how we as human beings can survive the hell of our lives intact, how we can become even larger than some of the most horrific moments. So he would imagine the lectures, the data points, the stories that he would share to those students. And he did survive. And he became a faculty member at a number of colleges and university here in the United States as well as in Europe. And on the first day of the first class after the war, he said to his students, "Thank you. Imagining you kept me alive." We are astonishingly capable of bringing our minds and our hearts to a better place. So whatever stressors you're facing today, whatever difficulties may be arising, whatever dread is coming your way, take a breath. Write down the negative thoughts that you're having, the conclusions you're jumping to, how you're taking it personally. This is all unfair, and I can build back better. The world doesn't feel safe anymore, and good people keep showing up. Write down those and statements. On the other side of the and, they just need to be slightly positive, not dramatically positive, slightly positive and true. Some part of you needs to believe them. It will change your thinking. It will change how you feel in the moment. And it will open up your ability to make a wise next choice. More on that to come.